What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, various conceptual ideas, and of course our movie review. With me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to be here. Good to spend some time with my buddy Rob and talk about all the news of the day.
It's my favorite day of the week.
Favorite day of the week. I hope it's I hope it's a lot of people's favorite day of the week. But today, for those of you who've been following this bit for a while, but yes, our movie review. We have a new month. It is the 1st of November. New month, new theme, and we're going with Degenerate Gamblers for this month. And to start us off, we're gonna watch a classic, a real classic, and that's the Cincinnati Kid, starring Steve McQueen, Carl Malden, Edward G. Robinson, and very young Rip Torn.
Yeah. Oh, ann-Margret's in there too.
Oh yeah, Ann-Margret is in there too.
Yowza.
What a smoke show!
Yeah. We had to bring back the Tasty Slice this week.
Tasty Slice moniker. Yeah. If there was a Tasty Slice, Ann-Margret definitely fulfills that title.
Yeah, honestly, this month we got some real heavy hitters on, like, as far as the acting goes. Like, we got Mr. Cool Steve McQueen this week. We're gonna be doing a little bit of Paul Newman later this month. We got Matt Damon. We got so we got all the heavy hitters.
Mm-hmm. And one cult classic. It's not very well known, but for those of you and for those in the know, it's right up there with all the classics.
When we talk about that movie, I will argue that outside of two films, it is the greatest pool film ever made. One of the greatest pool films ever made. Might honestly be one of my favorite all-time movies. It's really it's deep. And yeah, I've been really diving hard on that. I have a ton of stuff to talk about when we do that film.
Yeah, I mean, so I hope we piqued your curiosity, and you'll be tuning in the rest of this month to find out what movie Rob and I are talking about. But yeah, but of course, we always save the movie review for the end. So so please stick around as we go through our topics of discussion for today. But because even those are great and chock full of little nuggets. But if you decide that you just want to wait for the movie review, I'll understand.
You know what? That's why we have it in there, because sometimes people don't want to hear about, like, what's going on in the world. That's fine. I honestly, there's a lot of times where I would more than be happy to turn out on some of that stuff. But so that's why we do get a little bit of the crap out there. Got to get talk about that, and then we have some fun. Kind of cleanse the palate.
Indeed. But before we do, just let's play a little catch up. I'm gonna go first because I think it's just hilarious. But today, of all days, I received a fact check on a post that I put up on Instagram. And huh?
I gotta check your Instagram.
Yeah, but I didn't think that I was spreading any fake news. Or I wasn't making any claims. For those of you who don't know, on my Instagram, ever since I was in art school, actually, I began this thing where I would put up quotes about photography from famous and or well-known photographers. And I've been at this for a very long time, since at the earliest 2015, and and I never claimed. It was pretty straightforward. I'll just put up a quote about photography by a photographer, or some influential individual, and some people seem to enjoy it. But today I got a fact check on a post that I put up of just a quote from Ansel Adams. For those of you who don't know, Ansel Adams is
One of the
really,
authors, the
what was it?
greatest photographer of all, he's the greatest photographer of all time.
Yeah, or of nature. Ansel Adams is a famous landscape photographer. He was a really strong proponent of wildlife concert, or kind of wilderness conservation. Actually, he was, I think one. I can't remember it perfectly, but I think he was a founder or somewhat involved in the foundation of the Sierra Club here in California.
Yeah.
And preserving the Sierra Nevadas, and like the Yosemite. Like if you ever seen a photo of like a red tree, of a redwood, or any just landscape that just kind of like leaves you kind of like awestruck, then it's like the likelihood is that it's Ansel Adams' work. And so
Yep.
yeah, so this month, per usual, I always post it up the first day, or at least the first week of every month, a quote from the photographer, and I didn't think anything of it, and I went about my day, and then a couple of hours before the stream, I checked my phone, and I see these and I check my Instagram, and I see these notifications, and I see people like the quote, but then there was this little tag saying that they put a fact check label on my post, and I was like, that's weird. It's just a quote from Ansel Adams, um, and so I look into it, and I see why they flagged it, and it was because it thinks that I attributed a quote of Churchill talking about something about enemies.
So
Yeah,
they're trying to manipulate like something like where it's like you're just quoting somebody that, and they're like, well, no, you're attributing this to that.
here, hold on. Let me do the due diligence of why they flagged it.
Sounds pretty dumb to me.
Okay. Yeah, and it's so stupid. It's like you're okay. Fact checkers conclusion false. Why is like the same information was reviewed in another post by fact checkers. There may be small differences. Da, 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 da. Yeah, conclusion is false, and here's why. There is no evidence that Winston Churchill said this quote about enemies. That's not even what the quote is about. You know, all it is the quote. Okay, this is a quote from Ansel Adams. That's it, and the quote goes: "Sometimes I do get to places just when God's ready to have somebody click the shutter."
What?
That was it. That was the quote.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it too, and I'm like, what?
I know, like, there's nothing like about Winston Churchill, and even like the hashtags I use, like I don't attribute it to Winston Churchill, and
It
it's
even
only
says
about
under the quote, it says Ansel Adams.
yeah,
There's nothing about Churchill in this at all.
exactly.
What the fuck?
I don't know. I'm thinking, maybe I'm thinking this is I think it might be a little bit of the algorithm messing up, because I think because of another topic that we're going to talk about later, I think they're trying to preempt it into saying that people are going to come out really strongly against the topic that we're going to talk about. I won't beat around the bush. We're going to be talking about the stupid Atlantic article talking about you know the writer the author saying that we need to have a pandemic amnesty. So I'm thinking like it's something to do with that.
Jesus Christ, so stupid.
Yeah, because it was like specifically because like the fact check thing says like some like, oh, Winston Churchill never said this about enemies. It's like, what?
I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, none of the hashtags were about like, oh, destroy your enemies or whatever Winston Churchill said. No, it was literally just an image of a quotation by Ansel Adams.
I would say fact check, fuck you.
Yeah, fact check, fuck you. Yeah, and a buddy of mine, because I guess it's now underneath, because I for some reason when I look at the image, I don't see the fact check.
Oh, it shows up.
Yeah, it does show up. Yeah, but not on my end. And so
yeah, see, it says right under it, it says, "See why fact checkers say this is false."
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at it. The same false information was reviewed in another post by fact checkers. There may be small differences. Independent fact checkers say this information has no basis in fact. Fact checker, check your fact. Conclusion, false. More information. There is no evidence that Winston Churchill said this quote about enemies. What of anything? I'm looking at your hashtags. I'm looking at the quote. There is nothing to do with Winston Churchill or anything. So it just okay. It'd be one thing if like they just like wanted to hate, like if they hated like Ansel Adams and they think that everything he said is like he's some right wing conservationist nut, like the people that go hunting and stuff like that, and like, we don't like Ansel Adams. Fact check, false. He's not a good person, or some. I would almost understand that, maybe, kind of understand.
But it's so hilarious because it kind of goes to the idea of like the left always eats its own, and I mean Ansel Adams, like he was kind of a granola guy back in his time, because and again like he started the Sierra Club or was heavily involved in the formation of it, and that was all about preserving wild undeveloped spaces, the national parks and such. But I mean, I guess it's kind of it's kind of the fate of all like groups or whatever to once mission is accomplished, they kind of start to go off the mark, as it were. And the Sierra Club is actually no different because now they're like really like crazy leftist like environmentalists.
Yeah, it is not what it used to be, because the idea of the Sierra Club is a good thing. Let's preserve let's take care of the nature that's around us. Let's preserve that. We should have nice things to look at. We should be like replanting trees and keeping the forest nice so that people can enjoy them. I think that's a great thing. But then now it's like, we're gonna chain ourselves to trees, and you better not like cut down this tree. It's like, and they it's like that Captain Planet like thing where like, oh well, this loot and plunder, they're gonna cut down all the trees so that we have no forest left to make have anything nice. And it's like, the logging industry, why would they destroy their business? Of course they're replanting. They don't clear cut forests. Yes, do we use the trees that are there for for making paper and all that stuff? Sure, but they're out of a job if we're not replanting trees. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
in fact,
it's like a hooker that gives out chlamydia.
Yeah. Well,
it's like
the other thing too, what people don't realize, the logging industry, like a lot of the guys that were in that business for free, they didn't charge to do this service. They would clear out all the dry brush that that kind of just gets that
Yeah,
happens so
that just happens to
naturally.
accumulate. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's because that that becomes this because forest fires naturally happen, with like lightning strikes and whatnot, like they happen. Um, and so to make sure that they don't go into this wild uh super fires that we're getting, that they would do that. But now they are unable to do such a thing, and it's just I hate everybody. I
Right.
hate
Well,
I
I mean,
hate
yeah, this is like, yeah, I mean, and this is the, power that a lot of people want to give to, social media companies, or like, or now, like it's more and more, it's becoming to realize, how closely these big tech companies and government are working, hand in glove. Um, and so, it's like, people think, I know this has been happening to other people, but it's just like, when they're this far off the mark of the fact check, that just goes to show you that how reckless that they're being with this supposed power or slash responsibility that that they fact check something that I wasn't even talking about. You know,
yeah.
you know.
just
Uh,
I just think it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Um,
not even like super mad at it. I'm just more or less amused by just like, it's kind of like watching the drunk guy make an ass of himself at a party. Just
yeah.
like, he's staggering, he's like knocking things over. It's like, yeah, I kind of feel bad for whoever's house this is that this guy's like messing up. But it's just like, it's kind of humorous, like, because this drunk guy, he thinks, if you ever been out to one of those parties where like, it's like where the guy who's clearly had too much to drink, and he just has like this inflated sense of himself, but he still thinks like he's coming off as suave and or whatever. It's just like, you know
It's like
and just, yeah, it's like Ted, you're drunk, go home. It's just like it's just one of those things.
it's like that episode of The Simpsons, like where Homer gets way too drunk at his like the party at his house, and
Mm-hmm.
like in his mind he thinks he's like this like the his memory is like a New Yorker cartoon, like it's like
Yeah,
everything's
yeah, yeah.
fancy. It's like,
Uh,
but then the reality the reality is he's just a complete jackass.
Yeah, yeah, but complete with lampshade hat.
Oh God, it's just that's what these things have become. And like I said, I'm not even like anti social media. Like to be honest, I think stuff like Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that is actually very useful. And but then you get like this, and all of a sudden, obviously we use YouTube. That's been something we've been doing since the very beginning. And yeah, then it's like, oh, we don't like what you said, so we're gonna, oh, you're making headway on this, so we're gonna shut you down, or
Yeah.
you're saying something we don't like, so we're gonna fact check you, quote
Yeah,
unquote.
actually, yeah, last week, it was before, like, we would see, the live view counts, and it would like it would fluctuate. But last week, because interestingly, I included the tag Kanye West, and for some reason there were no like live views. There were no concurrent live views when we
That's
talked about the Kanye West stuff,
that's interesting. I
right?
wonder why.
I wonder why. And that's why, particularly because of the other topic, the Pelosi stuff. Like I didn't include any. I didn't like use their name. I didn't put like except for like the title. I didn't even put Hammer. I just put the location. And which is San
No,
Francisco,
we just wanted to talk about the song Hammer Time by MC Hammer.
right? Exactly. And I just want to talk about clam chowder at Fisherman's Wharf, which is in San Francisco.
Yeah,
There you go.
two things that we love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you see, this is the stupid games that we have to play. This is the stupid what a hot potato. that we have to play with, titles and and tags and whatever. But it's kind of like the Hays Code, back in the day with the movies. It's just making us more creative. It's just like, the what is it? The obstacle is just preparing us for the next obstacle.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like at this point, yeah, I'm not super mad at it. I'm more annoyed, you know. But again, this is the first time I got, and really quickly, interestingly enough, like if for some reason I think my phone went through a forced software update. I mean, maybe not the OS, but a lot of my apps. I feel like because I don't upgrade my apps very often, and as a certain point, there's you have to update your apps, but a lot of the baked in apps, like the Notepad or whatever, like the icon, like the icons change and some of like the
Yeah,
formatting changed.
that happened to me too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, because I'm an
Okay.
Android guy, so yeah, like
Right.
we're
Yeah. Yeah.
both
Yeah.
have Android phones. So yeah,
Right.
I was like, wait a second, this looks different.
Right? Yeah. And it's like, and like even like my Bible app, like I didn't update it, but like it, like the interface looks different. The icon for the app looks a little different. Some of the features of the Bible app are different or look different. So it's like I didn't update any of my apps,
Yeah,
but
so it's kind of interesting.
kind of interesting. But yeah, that's all I wanted to bring up about my day. I know yesterday was Halloween or whatever, but all I did was volunteer at my church for the kitty carnival. Um,
What the hell did I do yesterday? I don't. Well, I didn't go out anywhere yesterday. I think I was I was pretty damn tired.
mhm,
Uh, it was yeah. This week I went out a lot more than I usually do
mhm,
because I went out to an event with our good friend Eric,
mhm.
um, and then we kind of hung out for a little while afterwards. My the 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 waitress at the bar accidentally switched my card with somebody else's, and so
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, that was this past week. Jeez,
that was this past week.
dude, it feels like
So I
so long ago. It was only last week.
yeah, it was on I think it was like Wednesday or yeah, it was Wednesday.
Yeah, it was Wednesday. Yeah.
Then I went bowling on Thursday, as I do. What the hell did I do? Friday, I think I did something on Friday. I just don't remember. And then Saturday, I went out to a costume party with Gay Alex,
Mhm.
our good friend Gay Alex,
Mhm.
and
It was so gay.
so I went as Al Bundy, and
Mm.
my wife was like, "No one's gonna know what your costume is. It's so stupid." And I was like, that. Well, first of all, that's mean. Thank you for. But then I was redeemed because literally the first person that saw me outside, they're like, "Fuck yeah, married with children, Al, you're Al Bundy." It was like, thank. And I looked, like, see,
Right.
see. She, she went as a member of the Josie and the Pussycats. But
Mm.
that and her costume was nice. It was fun. But like I was like, you made fun of my costume, and literally the first person that we saw knew what I was doing. Like
So,
it's
yeah,
like
in
so
your
that
face, wife.
was like so take that. Um, but man, that was actually a pretty fun party. I didn't know anybody there other than Alex, so it
Mhm.
was kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Actually, James came too because
Oh,
we were
nice.
because we were talking about like hanging out with like Jay like our group. We were talking about like hanging out with James and stuff like that, and
Uh-huh.
if that didn't kind of work out, so it's like, well, I mean, you're able to come here if you want. It's like, yeah, all right, cool. So James kind of hung out with us for an hour.
Mhm.
Um, then other than that, like, yeah, you and I, we hung out. Oh, that's right, you came over on. That's what we did on Friday. You helped me out on Friday. We hung out for a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, we talked about today's movie and watched another movie that we're doing later this month, and just kind of then we talked about some other stuff too, and it was just that was a lot of fun. Had some fat burger that was good.
Yeah. Oh, they did mess up. But again, I'll let it go. But because I ordered with egg and they didn't put in the egg.
They didn't put the egg in there. Oh,
Yeah.
mine had the egg. It was delicious.
Oh, yours had the egg.
Mine had the egg. Yeah.
Oh, did
Did
you
I?
order with egg?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, whatever.
But yeah, no, it was so that. Other than that, yeah, that was pretty good. I've been watching this. We haven't done a docu series review in a while, but there's been a couple that I've one I finished and another one I'm about finished with.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly for we could do for a review at some point down the line. On Shudder, they have the 101 scariest movie moments of all time.
Mm-hmm.
That was really interesting. Some of the movies I've seen, some of them I haven't seen. I was like, oh man, that looks like a fun movie to watch. But yeah, it was kind of fun. Like you had some actors and directors, and I think what makes it so much fun is not just like because the movies themselves are that they're talking about are good, but the people are they're so energetic, they're so excited talking about those movies, and I think that makes it fun. And obviously with like the directors or the actors, they have some of the behind the scenes stuff because they've either worked on them or know like kind of the stories behind those films. And like Tony Todd, the guy who played Candyman, he's part of it. You had Keith David, who was in The Thing, who's a great voice actor. I love.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Um,
Goliath from Gargoyles.
Yeah, and he's also in he's a character in one of my favorite video games in Mass Effect. So it's just like I just love that guy's voice. It's like James Earl Jones, and then like a step down is like him. He's just that like as soon as I hear his voice, oh, that's Keith David. You just know it's
he's just so like for a while he was the voiceover for the Navy recruitment.
hell yeah, that's damn right he was.
Yeah.
So that was a really interesting docuseries on Shudder. And right now I'm watching I think it's called The Last Movie Stars, and it's the story of Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward, and kind of like some of their story and like the ups and downs of like their life that Ethan Hawke put together, which it's really fascinating. Just because I love Paul Newman. We're going to be doing the Hustler later this month, and so I was like, I better check this out. And yeah, it's been really interesting. So yeah, that other than that, yeah, that's pretty much been my week. And then because we went out way too many times this week, Joyce got sick, so she's I think passed out on NyQuil and Theraflu right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way, let's get into the topics. What would you like to start first?
We'll let the host decide.
All right. Let's talk about the Pelosi's because that story is just fascinating.
It is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, so like as soon as I heard that story, I was like, something just doesn't seem right. Like now, what you might be thinking is that okay, she's the third most powerful person in our country. If both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden died today, she would be the president. God forbid.
Right.
But Skeletor would be president. So you would imagine that there's a lot more security around her house, right? And I know there's people on Twitter. It's like, well, she wasn't at the house, so family members don't necessarily get the same protection. It's like, So you're telling me that like her husband, her like literally her spouse doesn't have that type of protection? The president's spouse and children do. The vice president's spouse and children
Right. I
do.
mean, and
You're
and
telling me that
and
she doesn't?
right, and save for, not the government stuff notwithstanding. The Pelosi's are literal millionaires. You're saying that they can't afford like private security?
Yeah, it's just like it doesn't make any sense.
Hmm.
Okay, so I was like, so already, so you let some crazed
Or
naked man.
or let's take the narrative for face value, and this guy broke his way into the house. Where is the security cam footage?
That's
That's the other thing. Where, if it was anybody else, or if this was like, just a Walmart, or even just like a kind of like normal kind of home invasion and robbery with some like unusual circumstances, that ring footage would be out by now.
I just know that we are not getting the whole story on that.
No,
Like
of course not.
but it's like I said. So right away I'm like, how did some like naked guy who they're calling some like MAGA extremist?
Right.
No,
Yeah. All right. And the only linking factor is that he said, "Where's Nancy?" Or he was like screaming, "Where's Nancy?" And like they're trying to, link it to, the January 6th and the people like
of
roving the
course,
Capitol, saying, "Oh, Nancy, where are you?" Kind of in a more jovial way, kind of like in a more like, like, oh, like they're playing hide and seek, not necessarily, "Oh, I'm gonna kill you, Nancy."
and
If to give the best sort of like representation, because like, what is it, like the people who are still locked up without formal charge, or like they're trying to charge them for criminal parading. That's like saying, oh, like, oh yeah, we're charging them for criminal skipping,
yeah, it
or
doesn't make any.
felony skipping.
So
That's the charge.
you're treating them like we do. You're using the Patriot Act, treating them like terrorists, not giving them their due process because of criminal parading. Okay,
Yeah, I
got
think
it.
yeah, I think one guy in solitary like killed himself.
I honestly like I would. Uh, I'm not surprised
Hmm.
that to be in solitary confinement for
Yeah,
that
23 hours a day. You only get 1 hour on the yard.
it
Yeah,
would
that's rough.
that yeah, it drives people crazy,
Hmm.
and I can't wait for when maybe some sanity returns. That not only are people the correct people prosecuted for this, but man, they deserve to sue the fucking shit out of the government.
Hmm.
I'm saying
Yeah, and I
I
mean, call me an optimist, but yeah, I'm just hoping that the people who get voted in this coming, what is it, 11th or 8th? I hope they follow through on the promises that they made. Um,
yeah, that's kind of like that's always the concern.
right,
Are
I
they?
know. Okay, that's of course. That's the only thing. And also, I mean, and not just like, the more, I guess, the more trustworthy, like, populist candidates. But even some establishment Republicans were saying that they were going to start investigations or whatever, and as soon as
Oh, I'm
that
sure.
they as soon as they get control. But and I hope that happens, and I hope that these new people that come in do hold their feet to the fire on that, and see to it that they keep their word.
Oh, you mean guys like Lindsey Graham who always seem to talk a big game, but then like when he actually has the power to do something, it folds like
Right.
a
Or yeah, like him like trying to introduce like the national like abortion ban, like just like mere minutes after,
the guy that did something.
yeah,
No,
mere minutes after Roe v. Wade was struck down. He's like, all right, now it's time to go for the jugular, and we gotta have a national ban. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's and now, yes, do I agree on something like that? Absolutely. But it's all grandstanding because he knows there's no vote. There, no one's gonna vote on that. He doesn't have the votes.
Exactly.
He doesn't have the votes. But now, but see, by doing something like that, see, guys, I'm doing something. They just don't want to vote for it. And then, like when he actually does have the power to change something, oh,
It's like, oh yeah, now's not the time.
yeah, that's
It's like
honestly he's
when we have all the votes is not the time.
fucking. I I really can't stand that guy.
I know. Yeah, I mean, initially, initially I liked his like kind of like shithead kind of uh, like
But
interactions.
he's entertaining. I'll give him
He's
that. Like,
entertaining, yeah. And like during like the whole Kavanaugh thing, yeah, it was very moving the way he was like standing up for him and talking about like, oh, if you wanted justice, you came to the wrong city at the wrong time. That was powerful. I'll admit that. But like all of his like doofus moves now is just like it's like you're pissing away all the goodwill. And also, I mean, and also he was one of the envoys that went to Ukraine back in 2014.
yep,
That bilateral like committee or whatever that went to Ukraine in 2014, just before the legitimate government was overturned by us, or at least by the United States government.
yeah, he's part of that. Yeah, I remember that.
He was part of that.
But no, so right from the very beginning, I was like, this story just doesn't sound right. And then
Right.
like yeah, and then you start to get like more. We have some like the recording of the 911 call.
Right. The
And it
dispatch.
sounds like it from based off of that, it sounds like the guy had already like he had been there for a while, and there must have been something that had been like going on, and there was like an argument in the house, and he because he didn't hammer Paul Pelosi until like the cops got there. So it's like what is actually happening, and I find it also super fucking convenient that this is happening what a week before the midterms. Seems a little weird, and it seems like there's a lot going on with Paul Pelosi. Like there's something not quite right with that guy because what this is the second incident with him in 6 months or less.
Oh yeah, yeah, because he had the DUI thing, and then yeah, he had that DUI thing, and then what is it? Did we lose Rob? Stand by. Oh, okay. Because your screen froze at least on my end. Oh, no worries. Hold on. Let me just try something. Yeah. Oh, it's nothing like you did, but yeah, your screen on the OBS is frozen. Yeah, and I mean, what is it? Supposedly, he was being, Paul Pelosi was being held, by this crazy person, but he was still able to get to his phone and call 911 because he said like, yeah, because he said that, like, because he got permission to go to the bathroom or whatever, and and that's just so happens to be where he had his phone, so he was able to make the call to 911. Um, yeah, and like yeah, and then like yeah, another like aspect like they were both in their underwears like fighting over the hammer and and what is it the intruder guy he was able to arrest um, control of that hammer and start beating Paul Pelosi with that and as the police were standing there and supposedly a third party let the police into the house. Uh-huh. Wait, hold on. Oh shit. Wait, hold on. Yeah, because I don't. Because oh shoot, yeah, I don't think your audio. See something real fast? Yeah, your audio's not even coming out. Shoot. Yeah. Or it's not being picked up by the OBS. Um, yeah, let's refresh. Okay. All right, I'll just kind of keep things going. But yeah, Rob will be right back. I'll get back. No, well, yeah, no, you're. Let me try creating a new one. Okay, I got you back.
Better?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, you could recap your position.
Oh no. So what I was saying is that like some people were like speculating, oh, he was in some weird male sex orgy or something like that. I'm like, well, okay, maybe, but uh, in reality, with the information that we do have, you can say like the narrative doesn't make sense,
Mm-hmm.
and something definitely weird was going on. And to be honest, I would not be super surprised if it was some stunt. Like I said, we're coming up on the midterms, and it just seems super convenient that this happens a week beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
um, or a little over a week beforehand. And I don't buy it. No, it just there's too many weird inconsistencies based off of like the information we have and what we're being told. And if I was Columbo, I would do a little bit more digging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and apparently, this guy, he's a Canadian, and
Yeah,
he's a visa overstay guy.
and they took a look at his house. And I'm not saying he has like some like rainbow American with American flag with like, but it's like the rainbow with like the marijuana leaf on it, and like
Right.
he has Black Lives Matter on his house. Maybe that's not his house. Maybe that's just where he was staying.
Mm-hmm.
So that once again, it's not definitive. Uh, and he was supposedly some like weird nudist hippie or something like that.
Yeah.
Once again, don't know anything about this guy, but like I said, based off of what we do know, seems a little, the narrative doesn't it doesn't hold water to me.
Yeah, it's a little sus. It's a little sus. That's all we're
Yeah,
saying. It's a little
I
sus.
just I just think it's uh we need to do a little bit more digging. I think we need to wait until more of these the information comes out. And of course, obviously, we're going to have the left say what they're going to say. The mainstream media is going to say what they're going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there's going to be the actual reality of the situation that they're going to try to suppress
Mm-hmm.
until after the midterms. And then it's like, okay, who cares?
Right. But yeah, what does it matter anyways? As someone famously once said.
Who cares? Who cares about Hunter's laptop? That's not important.
Yeah. Or, after Benghazi, it's like, what difference does it make anyways?
Yeah, fucking Hillary Clinton. God. Sent those people to their death.
Yep.
I'm so shocked. I'm really shocked that that movie got made, to be
I know,
honest.
yeah, 13 hours. Jeez.
It is a horrifying movie.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That's definitely in that category of like really good films that I hope to never see.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, I still think they're important because, it's like that's the only movie that's out there that's even telling like that side of the story, because
Yeah.
all
Oh yeah.
kind of like boots on the ground kind of experience of like this is what happened. This was the response of the government. They took over like 13 hours to go in and retrieve U.S. citizens. They that were definitely ill-equipped uh, for the kind of breakdown that occurred in Libya,
Yep.
which was by by the government's own making. So
Yeah. Yeah. Really. We're and hopefully we have something similar that gets made with the whole Afghanistan situation
mm,
from what God, we're coming up on a year ago that happened.
yeah, yeah, crazy to think. Crazy to think. I was yeah when the whole Afghanistan debacle happened, I was in a hospital bed, just enjoying my tuna salad, and I hear that Biden is pulling out, going against the agreed upon timeline, and and then just seeing all the images, and I'm just like, holy shit! Like
Yeah.
as cruddy as I was feeling, I felt even worse that seeing like the images, of like the people trying to escape on the C-130s and what have you, and and some people like falling to their deaths.
Yeah. But yeah, so like as far as like the whole the story with like that was going on here, I want to wait for some more information to come out, but I think it was interesting enough to talk about that the facts and the narrative don't pair up.
Right.
It's not.
It's like the facts and the narrative are changing like too quickly in real time.
Yeah.
For them to get like their feet under it and be like, okay, here's what really happened. But it's like, yeah, like again, like the narrative just like the facts are coming out way too fast, which it is a good thing. I think, um, because then they can't just spin up the bullshit machine and like, oh yeah, this is the story and this is how it's gonna happen. But it's just like more and more facts come out. It's like, oh well, like who there's somebody let that guy in. It's like, or why were they both in their underwears, or you know. But of course, the the mainstream media has to do their thing and try to run cover for them, but it just wasn't working. I mean, to the point where like they were trying to shift the story to Elon Musk, because Elon Musk tweeted that's newly owner of Twitter, Elon Musk, for those of you who didn't know who I was talking about. But but yeah, he tweeted out like a story from what is it, from a small publication from our neck of the woods, like the Santa Monica Observer or something,
Mhm.
saying that it was probably like, again, like I don't even think they made a definitive or declarative statement, but more of like it's like probable, it's like, oh, it's like maybe it was this, and they immediately jumped on and say, oh, look at Elon Musk, gets control of Twitter and he's already spreading misinformation. It's just, and and he did take it down, but I if okay, I don't want to be accused of misinformation myself, but yeah, I don't think like they made a definitive like declaration of like this is what happened.
It didn't seem like it.
Yeah,
It wasn't like, oh well, clearly this is a false story. That's not what I don't think that's what they were saying. It was just more of like kind of like what I'm saying. It's just like something just doesn't add up here. Like I'm not
right. Well, I
and
mean,
like
yeah, they okay. So like the Santa Monica Observer or whatever, I think they were like making more of a declarative statement, but I don't think they necessarily said this is what happened. I think they were just like more along the lines like speculating and saying like, oh, it could have been this this uh, you know prostitute for hire who started tripping balls or whatever. Um,
hey, that's possible
but
too.
yeah, I mean, up until we get more information, like I think that speculation, is fine and not very harmful. Um, is it one of the less likely things to have happened? yeah, okay, but up until we get evidence, evidence, facts to refute that, then I don't think we can exclude anything off the table.
Yeah, like I said, it's super fascinating story though,
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'm waiting to hear how it turns out. I'm not trying to spread misinformation or peddle a narrative. I genuinely want to know because of all the facts that are coming out ahead of the narrative that they're trying to spin. It's just so interesting that that I want to know, and it doesn't, and I don't even care, and it's not even that I want to see Nancy Pelosi humiliated or it's like, oh, suck it, Dems. I'm just genuinely intrigued by this story.
It's a super weird story.
Exactly, and I'm just really excited to find out what happens next.
That's all I got to say about it. That
All right.
because I don't have any more thoughts or speculation on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of just curious story.
For sure. Okay. Let's get on to the next topic of discussion, and that is the Atlantic uh, article. Um, asking for pandemic amnesty. Um, you
Oh,
know,
the fucking balls on this article.
um, yeah. What is it? What is it? Yeah, what is it? The article was said like, oh, we all said things that we regret, during the time when we were trying to, get more information, while we're in the dark about, COVID, and like we really, we should forgive each other. And I'm just sitting here like, bitch, there's nothing that I need to be forgiven of. Not one damn thing. You
People
know,
who
it's
were
what is it? It's these people, like, after all, after more and more information is coming out, after all these people who got I say supposedly because I'm not 100% sure that they even got it, but all these people who supposedly got the vaccine are still getting it. I mean, fucking the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, she's sick again with COVID, and she supposedly got it like 5 times. She got the vaccine 5 times.
you know what's crazy? Like, so one, I've never had it once. I'm not, and like I said, we have said numerous times, we're not saying it's not a real thing. Yeah, it's a different strain of flu, and
Right?
it
Yeah, and
can
I
be
mean, yeah,
dangerous.
I supposedly had it.
Yeah, and it can be dangerous. It causes a lower respiratory infection, which is causes
Which I
pneumonia
had. Which I
and can
had.
be dangerous. But for me, well, I usually don't get sick a whole lot of times, so
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten it once. My
Right.
wife, who is always constantly getting sick because that's just how she is, she hasn't even gotten it. And because she's done, like, she's had the test and everything, it's always been negative.
Mm-hmm.
She's never had it. And so, I'm like I said, for the people who have genuinely had it, it's like, hey, just like that with that guy. Like, what was that story of that lady who got shot by that gang member? She's like, they shot at my kids. You didn't die though.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. But it's like, yeah, it's like, but did you, like, yeah, it's the Chang defense. It's like, but did you die?
Exactly. And like I said, it's not. I'm not saying it's pleasant. Obviously, it's not. Anytime you get sick, it's not pleasant. Nobody wants to get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the 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 one thing I always wanted is like, okay, the people who are dying from it seem to have all these other problems too. It's just like your body can only fight so many things at once. These people who are like, they have heart problems, they have circulation problems. They have all sorts of other problems, and then they get COVID on top of that, and that's what kind of finished that's the last nail in the coffin. That's what
Right.
finishes
Yeah.
them off.
It's the person who gets who gets shot and then falls from a 5-story building and then gets run over by a truck. What killed him? You
Doesn't
know.
matter at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. And what is it? This virus was very like out of everything supposedly out of everything that we didn't know, the only thing that we were pretty sure of was who was the most vulnerable to this thing, and it was old people. Which
Yeah,
bared out again in the deaths. And what was it? Or at least we eventually found out that the average person who died from this was like 75, 80 years old, and they had at the on average 4 comorbidities. 4, not one or two, 4.
yeah. Well, and that was the one thing that I was like, give me the numbers of the people who have no health problems, get COVID, and die.
Right.
Those those are the important numbers. Who, like, because like, is it 10 people? Is it 100 people? Is it 1,000 people? What's that number? Because that's because, like I said, oh yeah, maybe COVID's what finished them off, but they had 4 or 5 more other things that
Yeah, and
they had
again,
to
that
go
was the average. 4 was the average. All right, so there, yeah, because there's like the bell curve. Like 4 is like in the middle, so that means there are people, with like 10 things, and then there are some people with like 2 or 3 comorbidities. But still, it's more than just one.
through. Like, and yeah, so, but once again, we never once said that it wasn't a real sickness or whatever. It's we never said that once.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you had people who had way too much power and influence that, out of whatever, whether it be because of selfishness, greed, um, because they wanted to exercise their power, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is,
Mm-hmm.
that they have, though these past 2 years have absolutely ruined, not just like it's a world, it became like a worldwide problem because
Mm-hmm.
you wanted to shut everyone down. People have been arrested, people have lost their jobs, not because like they did anything wrong, but because they were forced out because they didn't want to take the vaccine because they had questions about it. So you kick people on their petard because they didn't want to take the vaccine, or they're just the businesses no longer existed because you shut them
Yeah,
down. They couldn't create any income.
yeah. A third,
And
a third of all restaurants in California are gone. A third of like not like they're shut down or they're like it's gonna take a little while for them to get back on their feet. No, a third of all restaurants in California are shut down forever. And we're talking from like probably like small taco like some taco shops and all the way up to like seventh generation owned legacy restaurants,
yeah, it's it, and they're never coming back.
and they're
They're just
never coming back. Like no matter like what, no matter how much funny money that the government says, oh, like yeah, here put your business back together. It's like no, there's no amount of money that can bring it back.
people have been imprisoned. Not necessarily in this country, but in like places like Canada, England. Um, you have just all sorts of like the inflation and financial crisis that it's put people through. Children, uh, this this next generation of children, like there's a lot of kids who have speech problems now
Yeah.
because kids
Oh my
require
god, yeah, kids kids, yeah, the kids that are especially like in the formative years. I'm talking like 5 to 10. Like
Yeah.
they're so screwed up. Like they're gonna have problems, um, yeah, like again, like you said, like speech problems. They're gonna have cognitive problems. Like they're not gonna be as smart as previous generations, and they're gonna have a hard time building relationships or like relating to people because they essentially have face blindness.
This is how idiocracy happens.
Yeah, I mean, and like some more conspiratorially, might say like this was done on purpose. And I mean, and seeing like the level of like supposed uh, incompetence, like it's hard to disagree with them, because it's like, yeah, you get one or two things differently, but you constantly are doing the wrong things. At a certain point, you have to think this is on purpose.
If not on purpose, it was just like, oh, we have an opportunity here, and
Right? Yeah, like there's some malicious intent behind this.
yeah, and that's that's a scary thing. And now all of a sudden, because the this is not the, because obviously like the COVID thing is dying down. People are like they're
Yeah, yeah. But what this really is that because the numbers are coming out, numbers
yeah,
coming out after the vaccine, and a lot more
yep,
people. People are. I think you'll find when they finally do like some studies about this time, like they're gonna find a huge number of people died of suddenly. You know. And they're gonna be able to trace it back to a certain time, just after a certain injection.
yeah.
And that's really why they're calling for like this. Okay, let's cut our losses. You said some crazy things. I said some, you know, unreasonable things, and we'll just call it a day. It's like, no, fuck you.
It's
And
like
and
it's
some
like
people like and some people I know, like some people might call me out and saying like, because I said this, talking about like how we have to treat this like Vietnam era draft dodgers, but that's on us. That is on us. All right, not that we who are you know who weren't calling for people to be canceled or lose their jobs or lose their livelihoods by refusing this thing. It's up to us to pass on that forgiveness. But which is and I still believe that. I really still believe that. But it's on us. Not that we all collectively decide like, you know what, we're all kind of crazed and we're acting stupid. Let's just be bygones. And to that I said, fuck you.
it's like, okay, yeah, I might have called you a liar, but you shot us in the chest. Okay, so
Right?
it's
Yeah. It's like, yeah. The response were disproportionate. The
uh
responses were disproportionate. It's like,
and
we said like, yeah, I don't know about that, and you punched us in the face.
I for one, like, I will not be forgiving the people in power, whether it be the media or government officials. And in fact, I want there to be, um, we have a lot of candidates who are saying that they want investigations, that they want to, like, I was like, okay, great. We've been talked about Rand Paul ad nauseum, and like how he's been the only one who has stood up against, the main man, Dr. Fauci. Why do you
Mm-hmm.
think that guy is all of a sudden retiring? Because he knows that trouble is a brewing,
Yeah, no,
and
he was reading the terrain.
even if maybe if he takes himself out of the limelight, maybe people will forget. And I hope that people don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that they don't care that, oh, you're going to retire. We don't give a shit. We're going to come after you because he's the first guy that needs to go down.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with all the shady shit that the NIH and him were doing with all this um, uh, virus tampering, and like those virology clinics that are going around. The reason why they tried to oh no, it didn't come from the Wuhan virology lab. No, that's crazy talk. That's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no, because some
You know
chick ate
why?
a bat.
You know why? No, you know why that was? Is because they were building more of those virology clinics around the world, and had that it been known that this thing broke out from that funding goes away. Um, and it's like, oh no, the NIH, I and the NIH, we didn't put money into those things, but they did.
Yeah,
And
because
the evidence is there.
they did the loophole by giving the money to somebody else, which then in turn gave the money to the research labs.
Yeah, that's what it's
So
like.
that so it's like what is it? Yeah, they like washed their hands of it. It's like, oh, like no, we gave it to this organization. What they would do with that grant, it's not on us.
So you start with Fauci, the people at the NIH. You go down to the Pfizer and Pfizer and Moderna and all those places, and you just work your way down. And there needs to be teeth to this. You investigate. You figure out who's culpable of this. Who?
Criminally culpable. Yes.
Yeah, and honestly, the people that were forced out of work, I mean, they were like literally kicked on their ass. Like, the supposed heroes, the nurses, and like, or the military members who were forced out because they didn't want to take the um, the vaccine. Those
Right.
people,
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I wouldn't take my job back, but they deserve compensation, especially like,
Well, I mean, yeah. The what is it in New York? They just passed this. The New York Supreme Court just passed decision that what is it? The people that work for the government who got fired are to be given their jobs back and back pay given to them. Which is great. And then like a couple days later, I think they did make the New York Supreme Court made a ruling where even private businesses that fire people for not getting the vaccine are be given their jobs back and back pay, which is great, which is really good, and and I'm happy that we're getting this win, but it's like day late, dollar short. It's like how many of these people like had their lives utterly ruined, like they weren't able to make their mortgage payments, they weren't able to make car payments, they weren't able to make whatever, they weren't able to pay for their insurance or whatever, and now they're like utterly destroyed.
yeah,
It's like it's not enough. It's not enough. Like these, like
no, it's not enough.
it's not enough. It's not enough to just give them money and like, oh yeah, here's your position back. And like, and let's let bygones be bygones. No, like these fuckers have to be held accountable. You know,
Exactly.
and that's
It,
why I'm saying like these people who say like, oh, let's just agree to disagree. It's like no. That time is gone. Like you're the one who you're the ones who did this. You're the ones who said like, oh, we can't agree to disagree. You have to agree with us, or your life is over. No, fuck that shit. All right, fuck that shit. And I mean, and personally, you have to make the decision yourself. But for public figures like government people, government workers, employees, or what is it, politicians, those people, yes, all right, I want them held accountable. I want heads to fucking roll.
yeah, it's that to me, that's the only. Then we can start talking about forgiveness.
Yes.
You know, you know, and on like on a tertiary level too, like you have people who weren't able to go to their own like their spouses or parents or God forbid their children's funerals
Right.
because
Yeah,
whoops,
or
sorry,
just like to be with them at their bedside as they died. I'm not talking about the
my,
people who are just had the sniffles and they weren't able to go be with their loved ones. But I'm like talking about those people who are on their deathbeds who died alone, surrounded by strangers. And I mean, what is it like in England? There was that clip of that funeral where like they had it like all spaced out and like there was like I think it was like a father passed away and like the adult children were there with like their mother and they weren't even sitting next to each other And then one of the sons like moved in to like comfort the mom, and then another one, and then another one, a third tried, and the fucking funeral director came in and like broke that shit up. It's like, no, 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 you can't do that. It's like at a fucking funeral.
Yeah, it's because that's not. It's horrific, and my grandmother died in 2020. We couldn't go to see, my mom wasn't able to go see her,
Mm-hmm.
because you couldn't really go on a plane, really. Like, it was really fucking hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, and even then, it's like, well, what's gonna happen? Like, I can't even be with my family to like mourn. Like, it doesn't. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm not saying that people necessarily deserve, like financial compensation for that, because there's no amount of money that you can get to that person's not coming back. That
Right. Yeah.
those interactions, you can't get that back. Okay, it's there, but it's just like the fact that someone should pay, is, there should be some justice for that, that people responsible, get what they deserve. Like me, trust me, I'm not going to be crying any tears of sadness when um, Dr. Fauci doesn't get his fucking golden parachute. He gets that taken away. Um, that maybe he takes a financial hit because he's criminally liable for funding stuff that like caused this stuff. It just there's yeah, like I said, there's no, oh whoops, oh whoopsie, oh whoops. No, there's no whoops, no, there needs to be, when these investigations finally do happen, if they ever do, they need to happen. There needs to be teeth. People, like, and not just like the lower tier people, actual the people that were actually heading these decisions need to go, maybe not jail, but there needs to be serious financial penalties where it hurts.
Right. And I mean, and yeah, go and getting to the article, like you know, politicians and public servants are one thing, but like people personally in your life, a good place to start, if you want forgiveness, you know what, a good place to start would be is to start off with an apology. All right,
Yeah,
how about I'm sorry I treated you that way, or I'm sorry that, I let fear overtake my, better judgment. Let's start off with there, and then we'll talk about forgiving me. Because what is it? I mean, I did the hardest thing that uh, anyone can do, and that's go against their family. You know, I stood up to my family, to not get this vaccine. And I got called all sorts of hurtful things. From people who love me,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Your situation sucked.
All right. I was called all sorts of awful and hurtful things by people who love me, and I don't question like that they love me, or if I don't question if they love me. I know they love me, but again, they still call me all sorts of horrendous things, and I know that I'm never gonna get an apology from them.
Yeah,
I just know. I know I'm never gonna get an apology from my parents, or whatever, or other family members who like were telling me I was being selfish or foolish for not getting the vaccine. I know I'm never gonna get that apology. But I mean, but that's me personally. I am deciding to take that and let that go. But that's me making a personal decision about my life. But
right,
like,
right.
but again, but if anyone, and because like they're my family and I love them, and I'm not gonna let this one thing like destroy our family. But everyone else, I'm waiting for my apology.
Yeah, that your situation is tough because, yeah, you were. I mean, they went full court press on you, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's with when it came to like my family, my parents like they did their own thing, like and they did what they thought was best for them, but they never like called me out, like they weren't like, wait, you're not doing that? Are you crazy? And like kind of where they wouldn't even like talk to me. It wasn't one of those things. So like I'm to be honest, I'm actually very grateful for that. And I'm also honestly they didn't get sick either at all. Um, so
Yeah.
I'm very happy for that.
Hmm.
You know, there were uh, there were times I had to kind of like, my wife was freaking out because she was her parents were telling her things about like stuff, and so she was freaking out. I was like, and I'm like, listen, I know what you're hearing. Obviously you trust your parents, and I do too. I love her parents to death, and but they're hearing very suspect sources, and it's like, trust me, I'm keeping up on this, like, and I know where the dangers lie. We're
Hmm.
gonna be fine. First of all, we don't have sure, she has a disability, but it's not like something that's debilitating to her. Like, she's not it's not like she has that the core morbidities or whatever the fuck that thing is called, like with
Hmm.
all, like where like if she's like on the she's on that verge of death, and like one more thing is going to tip the scales over to like her
Hmm.
dying. It's like, no, you're young, you're healthy, you're going to be fine. Even if you get it, you're going to be fine. Um and yeah, it's like, and we definitely had some fights on it, and it's like, but that's someone that's like, okay, yeah, after the fights, we forgave each other, and she's like, you know what, you're right. I'm gonna follow your lead. I'm gonna trust you. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna lead you down a bad path. I'm not going to intentionally lead you down a bad path. Okay, like if and it's and yeah, but yeah, your situation is really tough, man. Yeah, that's yeah. How do you deal with the fact, like, friendships and families that were split or broken?
Hmm.
Um, and maybe there isn't a way. Um, I know churches broke up because of this. I know a lot of relationships broke up over this,
Hmm.
and hopefully, that's not still happening. But there's a lot of people that are deservedly angry, and whoopsie is not. We need a pandemic amnesty. That's no. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's insufficient. It's insufficient. Yeah, I mean, as sucky as everything that went down is sucky. Um, what is it? Um, it like this was actually a blessing in disguise because when the masks went on, the masks came off, and we finally knew who people really were and where they really stood. I mean, and I'm not just talking about in your personal life, but like you know, government officials. You know,
Yeah.
people calling like how many little tin pot dictators were revealed finally for everyone to see. You have your Newsoms, your Whitmers, um, uh, your Insleys, your Lightfoots, your
Yeah.
Cuomos.
Yep.
Dude, yeah, like in a weird way, this was a blessing. I mean, now we're on this side, and they're saying like, oh yeah, they're trying to do the oh yeah, good game, sport, good game, good efforts, like
And no, once again, kind of like with our last story, convenient that this seems to come out right as the midterms are starting to come up.
right, and I think yeah, and very convenient, and I'm thinking they're trying to rile up some sort of event, but they haven't been paying attention. They think that they can rile us up with a story like or an article like this, and like we're gonna start. We're gonna do as they did and start burning down businesses in our own community or and
No.
and and have
like
fiery but mostly peaceful protests. Like, no, no, you stupid idiots, that's not us. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will not. We will hate you for this. With these words that you say, the unmitigated gall that you think you could come and be like, oh, good game. Everyone put in forth like their best efforts. Let's just call it a tie. It's like, no, fuck you, and we'll tell it to your face. Or like at least we'll tweet it at you to directly into your inbox. But because a lot of people were going after this chick because she was actually one who was like calling for people to lose their jobs and saying like, oh,
Yeah.
and like and what is it? And like she retweeted the L.A. Times article saying like, oh, it might be ghoulish to mock the deaths of anti-vaxxers, but it might be necessary.
Yeah, and so honestly, like but of course she's gonna be like Taylor Lorenz. Oh, they're bullying me. Oh, they're bullying me. Oh, but then like they're the same person that go like they cry that they're being bullied, but then they go and try to destroy somebody's life.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. What is it? They cry out as they strike you.
yes. So to the author of this article, go fuck yourself. There's no amnesty for you or any of the people in power
Yeah,
who
or
caused.
any of the authoritarian fucks that thought that they could play dictator and then they could play dictator and put on the hat and then like as soon as like people started not taking that shit anymore, it's like, oh no, I was just playing.
And I know that justice will come for you in either in this life or the next.
Right? Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's not saying that we're gonna do anything. We're this podcast. We're very much of a vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
exactly. So like I said, if we have a in this life legal justice that happens where like they are forced to pay up or lose their jobs or there's imprisonment in some cases, I'm all for it. Yes, thank God. But if that doesn't happen, if we don't get that here in this life, damn be sure there's gonna be some justice in the next life.
Mm-hmm. Dark Avengers in the chat. What's up, Dave? Yeah. Comments here. What's cracking, my niggas? I want to paddle Nancy hard. Okay. It's a little gross. Not gonna lie, bro. That's a little gross. Andy, I love you, brother. Right back at you. I fucking love all my Asian and white niggas. Yeah. And I'm not twittering shit. Tell it to their face, them fucking bitches. Agreed. Agreed.
It's always super entertaining.
Yes, always. Yeah, even when he's like not when he's not on, even though he's not on, he's still on.
Exactly. But yeah, I have nothing else to say about the story. But yeah,
Yeah.
it just I just
Yeah, and let's not. I mean, again, our side. Let's not do the moral high ground, shtick and be like, oh, we're better people, so we'll let this one slide. No, all right, because if we say that we're the side for like accountability and justice and rule of law, then fucking put the fire to those people's feet. All right, it has to happen. Not that we want it to happen, but it has to happen for the sake of justice, for the sake of what is it? For the sake of the idea of rule of law. It has to happen. It's not that we want it to happen. It has to happen.
It's the righteous thing to happen. Like don't just give it. It's like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should just forgive. It's like, trust me, like Andy and I are both Christians. Like honestly, that is not sufficient. I'm sorry.
No.
And the only way to make this right is where the rule of law is put in effect on these people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's like you said, if that doesn't happen, we're not going to be like the other side where we're just going to burn down our community. No, but it's like, okay, fine. The justice that we were seeking didn't happen in this life. It's gonna happen in the next life for damn sure. All
Absolutely.
these like
Vengeance is
all,
mine,
all
saith the Lord.
fucking ghouls that were taking advantage of people at this time, trust me, there's gonna be hell to pay in the next life.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, you know that they're gonna come back. With it's so interesting. The most ungodly people come back. The people who say that they don't want to be ruled or live their lives by the words of the Bible always come back at you with words from the Bible. And I can already foresee that they're gonna say like, "Oh, didn't Jesus say to forgive your brother like 70 times 7?" And it's like, yes,
Well, yeah,
but
you're not
are
my
you my
brother.
brother?
Yeah.
Are you have you taken in the salvation of Jesus Christ? Have you been baptized? Are you? That's the only way you're my brother. If you're not, then you're not my brother, and I
Well,
have no obligation to forgive you.
well, according to them, Pelosi and Biden are the most pious Catholics
Oh
out
yeah,
there.
they're super Catholics apparently, even though they're totally for a baby murder up into the point of birth.
Sometimes after.
Sometimes after, yeah, they're gonna go the full Northam route.
It's okay. We'll just dash their head in the rocks. It's okay.
Right, yeah, but like whoops,
Yeah,
I can already see it coming.
but like I said, that's all I got to say on this. We didn't have those are all our news topics, right?
Yeah.
I think that's all we had news topics wise.
Oh yeah. But yeah, super interesting topics. Yeah, I am just so fascinated with the Pelosi story. I really want to know what happens next. Like, and again, I'm not, oh yeah, get the Dems or whatever. I just genuinely wanted to find out
Yeah.
what the story is, and of course, yeah, like this whole like pandemic amnesty bullshit. Yeah, fuck that. All right, God
Nope.
forgives.
All right.
God forgives. I don't.
Yeah.
And you can say that's unchristian all you want, but if you're not my brother, if you have not partaken in the sacraments of repentance and sanctification and all that, then you do not call Jesus Lord, then you are not my brother, and I am under no obligation to forgive you.
What was it? There's a scene in this Denzel. It's a Tony Scott movie. I think it's Out of Time with him. And, Denzel Washington's a star.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Scott is directing. He's going after he's a bodyguard that's trying to find the girl that was kidnapped, and like
Oh, that's
he
Man on Fire.
Man on Fire. Thank you. Not Out of Time's another
Yeah,
Denzel Washington.
another Denzel Washington.
But anyways, he's where he stuffs like this bomb up this guy's ass, I
Mm-hmm.
think,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
he's like, oh, it's ticking. The clock is ticking, and he's like, okay, I gave you everything you need. Are you gonna? It's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're out of time. You're out of time, buddy. It's just like it's been a while since I've seen that movie, but it's like, oh my god, that scene was so satisfying.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of like what I feel like with this. It's like, sorry guys, you're out of time.
Yeah.
The time for not being like a huge asshole was 2 years ago.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. When
The time for
they want that they want the, oh, let's just agree to disagree. It's like, no, that time is past. That time is over.
yeah, the time for
That
forgiving.
time for that was 2 years ago.
Exactly.
But, yeah. Did you know that Man on Fire is a remake?
It was?
Yeah.
No way. I didn't
Yeah.
know. I just had no idea.
Yeah. Or at least the one that preceded the Tony Scott remake was from like the late 70s, and it starred Glenn Scott.
No.
Yeah,
Really?
I just saw it on Stars, just like a week ago or so, a week or so
I'm gonna
ago.
check that out. That's because
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it seems like the same story, but it just takes place in Italy.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have to check.
I wasn't able to watch the whole thing, but yeah, like it was pretty much. It started off pretty much similar to the remake with Denzel.
I mean, because yeah, I had no idea it was a remake, and I do like since that would be a remake that I do like, though I do some of the cinematography stuff in that movie really like it's just like what was up
Oh
with
yeah, yeah, yeah. The swirly cam.
God? It's just like, and the weird filters, the weird camera, the weird
Yeah,
filter
yeah,
colors and stuff. Just, it's like, can we not do that? That'd be great.
yeah. Like it's the very like CSI kind of aesthetic.
Oh yeah, that's you know what? That's why they did it.
Yeah.
You're right. Oh God. And to be honest, I don't even hate CSI, but it's like I hated those stupid filters. It's like stop it already.
Right. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's not the movie. Yeah, Man on Fire is not the movie we're going to be reviewing tonight. Of course, the
Some
movie.
people do Man on Fire at some point, just not tonight.
Yeah, just not tonight. Tonight we are again with the theme of the degenerate gamblers. We will be reviewing the Cincinnati Kid, starring Steve McQueen and Edward
G. Robinson,
G. Robinson.
Rip Torn,
Yeah,
Carl
Carl
Malden,
Malden. Mm-hmm,
ann-margret.
mm-hmm. Oh, and Cab Calloway.
Yeah, yeah, I was just gonna say that who we last talked about in the Blues Brothers.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Why don't you introduce the movie to everybody, and I'm going to take a bathroom break.
All right. Here we go. Yes, the Cincinnati Kid. Um, the film follows the story of a young poker player who comes to 1930s New Orleans to face the best poker player of the country, the one known as the Man. The Man has been the master of the game for many years now, so our hero thinks it's time for him to take his place, and he believes he can make it without the help a gangster offers. Uh, I don't really like that synopsis, but whatever. Yeah. So yeah, this movie came out in 1965. Again, starring Steve McQueen and Carl Malden and Rip Torn and ann-margret and all of the people that we mentioned previously. Um,
Think of this to me was this is the poker version of The Hustler.
mhm.
Because, like I said, you have kind of like this young, up and coming, poker player trying to go after the hardened veteran, like that. Everyone knows, like, if you want to be known as the best, player,
Mhm.
this is the guy you got to beat. That's Lancey Howard,
Mhm.
played by Edward G. Robinson. So the kid is trying to, get. He's worked his way up to be able to have a game with Lancey Howard,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like where we kind of start with the movie. Um, though I would say that the kid is I would say maybe he's a little less cocky, but or his cockiness is much more subdued as far as compared to like Eddie Felson's character in The Hustler.
Mhm.
And there there's a lot of there's a lot about this movie that I'm very interested about, and I have some questions. Like we talked about a few of them when we hung out on Friday.
Mhm.
Um, but like the whole uh the kid's relationship with Christian, I found I was like, it's what do you think that relationship was all about? Because I don't know. She obviously loved him,
Mhm.
but he seemed so hot and cold with her. Like
Mm.
what do you think about that relationship between Christian and the kid?
Um, yeah, it's like he didn't really he didn't really show much affection towards her. Um,
It's almost like he didn't care she was in the room after.
yeah, I mean, yeah, like the whole like bath scene was very telling of the kind of relationship that they had. Um, it was just like he was like very like kind of dismissive of her, and like he wasn't really paying attention. But I mean, I don't fault a man for not paying attention to like the story, the stories of like his girlfriend or whatever. But it's like
I
that's
do that all the time. Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
yeah,
There you go.
great, honey.
Yeah,
That's
I mean, yeah,
awesome.
it's
Yep.
not it's not super unique to the character of the kid for not paying attention to the stories of his girlfriend, but yeah, but like there's just like this distance between them, or an aloofness to the kid
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Christian.
That's what it felt like. It's almost like he didn't like if she wasn't there, like he would have been fine.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think he was, she's just a warm place to be, on certain nights, for him. Although he might have been, I think he might have been uh, growing some attachment to her. Um,
I also wonder too, because right as the time before the game, like once it's like finalized that like he has the game with
mhm,
Lancey Howard,
mhm,
you can tell that there are a lot of nerves. Like he feel and like and Christian ends up like going back home
mhm,
before he kind of like before that game gets finalized.
mhm.
And I think that in some weird way, he knows that he is better when Christian's around because he went to go visit her
Right,
before that game. Um, and so I think that maybe somewhere deep down, he does actually care about her and like need her, but at the same time, it's like she's also like she is an obstacle in the way because her life is about like being with him and like and
right.
whereas
She wants a future with him. Um,
right.
and right, and what is it? When Shooter's wife Melba makes a pass at him, later on in the movie, it's not as though he rebuffs her because of his love for Christian. It's more of his um, loyalty to Shooter.
Yeah, because well, as we'll find out later in the movie, because stuff does happen between him and Melba, but I think
Mm-hmm.
but there's a reason why that happens.
Yeah.
Um, and I also think yeah, like I said, this movie does have kind of like the series of relationships because the relationship between Shooter and Melba is also very fascinating too,
Mm-hmm.
because Shooter was once uh like the kid, he was a very hard charging poker player
Mm-hmm.
who he actually went up against Lancey Howard and just got fucking decimated.
Right.
And after that, he kind of just like, you know what? I just play the percentages. You know, I don't win big, but I don't lose big either. So he's
Right.
always kind of like breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
And God, I don't know how like him and Melba got together, but like she clearly there's something about like gambling that gets her like sexually like charged or whatever because you can tell like when she gets really excited and something about like cheating and gambling, that's what she's about. Because like the very first scene, the very
Yeah.
first
When we're
time
introduced to her, yeah,
she is sawing off pieces of a jigsaw
jigsaw
puzzle to
puzzle.
make it fit. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like and the shooter's like why do you do that? Like you're just why do you always cheat yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You're only going to lose when you cheat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I've never seen you play a game of solitaire without cheating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that's everything because he clearly loves her. Melba I think, could give two fucks about Shooter.
Right.
Kind of the same thing with.
Because Melba is an opportunist. Because right now, like she knows that she has more or less a good thing going with Shooter because he's so in love with her, and so he tries to provide a life for her um, that she wants. And that's why she's always dressed like so well, and even though their apartment isn't the most in the most luxurious of neighborhoods, she pretty much has everything like she probably asked for.
Yeah, and it's
So
like that marriage does not last. It's
no.
maybe another 6 months after this movie ends.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, the events.
Um,
Yeah, the events of this movie.
yeah. Um, so yeah, like it's kind of like, and Shooter is a little bit like the mentor for the kid in a lot of
Yeah.
ways because he's a little bit older, kind of been like where the kid is trying to go,
Mm-hmm.
and he's known as he's like kind of like the super square dealer, like where everyone knows that he's gonna deal a fair hand, he's not gonna fuck around, he's
Right.
trustworthy,
Mm-hmm. He's
and
above board.
yeah, exactly. And so that's kind of like how where we start the movie at. And we see that the kid does have a lot of skill. He's good at playing cards. Some people just have like in their head like they kind of know. I don't know stud poker very well.
Right.
I obviously, because we've been so ingrained with Texas Hold'em, I think like I just don't understand stud poker anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only part of the movie that was like, wait a second, like how does this work again? Because it um so I kind of had to like kind of figure that out through the movie. I still
Right.
don't quite know how stud poker.
I think it still kind of works the same way as Texas Hold'em, but just not. Yeah. What is it? Just there's not as many cards that are discarded.
Because what I always remembered, like, so before Texas Hold'em became really big, I remember there was like where, okay, you cards, and it's like you're looking at your hands like, okay, I'm gonna deposit two and
Yeah.
like
Okay. Yeah.
get
Get
two
rid
back.
of. Yeah.
That's not stud poker though.
No.
That's so the game that we're seeing in the Cincinnati Kid is not that. It's something different.
Right. It's kind of. It's
Um,
yeah. It seems similar to Step Poker because they're give it. They're each player is given hold cards, and then they're communal cards. Oh no, not communal cards. They're
because
given
it's
cards.
like
But they're given one card. They're given one hold card that's face down, and then
face down.
they're given four cards to make a hand, and so the so they don't know what the hold card is until at the end.
Okay, so I then I did understand how they were playing it,
Mm,
but like I said, I've never played poker that way ever.
right. Yeah. I've heard of stud poker, but I've never actually seen it played. Um,
Yeah,
it's
like
usually just like the 5 card money or whatever.
yeah, of all the poker I've played, I've never played it that way. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of interesting seeing this movie do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's talk a little bit about Lancey Howard because he's been known as like he's the guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Yeah,
want to
well,
be
yeah,
known
his
as
moniker is the man.
the man, yeah. What do you think about him? What do you think about the man?
I think yeah, he's a seasoned player, and he he obviously has retained his title because of good decisions and and disciplined play.
throughout the movie too, like what I noticed about him, because he's so experienced, because we all of all the players that we see, who like a lot of them have played a lot of poker before, so that they know the game.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's on another. It's like he's just on another level from them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the way that I would compare it is like what was so frustrating. I compare him to like Dale Earnhardt. He was
Mm-hmm.
so frustrating because there was just so much thing. So he had the willpower, and he could take a car that was like a race car that was not as fast, and he'd beat you with it. It's like how the fuck did like another favorite race car driver of mine, Mark Martin. He would always talk about how it's like he would get so frustrated. It's like my car is faster than his, and he beat how the hell did he beat me? He would constantly get Dale Earnhardt could take a slower car and beat you on most days.
Mm-hmm.
That's who Lancey Howard is. He
Mm-hmm.
might, like I said, he he just had that knowledge and experience of where to bet, where not to bet, and he would do things that would frustrate players. He obviously pissed off Rip Torn's character. What was his name again in the movie? I'm forgetting his name.
Sloan.
Sloan, yeah.
Sloan.
Slade. Slade.
Slade. Slade. You're right. Slade. Slade.
Yeah. Yeah, he pissed him off, and it's like because I think what pissed him off is like, wait a second, because he was asking a genuine question. It's like, wait a second, how did you beat me on this hand? Like, what did you do that I didn't do? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, well, the money that you paid here, that's just the price of admission.
Right.
It's like you don't get to see behind the curtain. It's like he wasn't going to give away his secrets,
Mm-hmm.
which is smart. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to tell you. It's like you got to figure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
out
Get to my
yourself.
level, bitch.
And even during like when the actual game is happening, uh, the players are getting so fucking pissed off. It's like how it's like he sure like my favorite one was the doc with he was constantly writing his book trying to figure out like the percentages. Like he should not have bet on this fucking hand. It's like
Mm-hmm.
and, Pig is the first one out. It's like he's like screw you, Lancy, you're jackass, and it's like why are you getting mad? Yes, you got beat by the best. It's frustrating because, but it's like yeah, it's because he has so much experience. He's gone around the block several times. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
so ahead of you guys that it's like it's that, and so yeah, so that I can understand why that's so frustrating.
Oh yeah,
But the thing
it's like in what is it? Ocean's 11. God, who's the actor? Like he plays the older. He plays like the kind of like the 18 reference. He's kind of like the he's kind of like face. He like with the disguises.
oh, Carl Weiner's character.
Yeah, yeah, and he when Brad Pitt like approaches him, he's like I saw you. I saw you before. You think I saw you. He's like, I saw you while while you're still making breakfast this morning. You know.
Yeah, yeah, it
So
was
yeah,
Carl Reiner.
yeah, yeah, Carl Reiner. Um,
There's
but
a movie I
yeah,
made at some point
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. He's definitely another one of those people that will not be getting my forgiveness. Um,
Yeah. um, but the other thing too, like about like Lancey, because the one thing that the way that the movie was going, obviously, like there were some shenanigans that were going on that we'll talk about soon about uh going on with this game,
mhm,
and there were times during the game that it looked like Lancey was struggling.
mhm,
His back was hurting. It's like, he just like it was almost too much for him.
right.
But the way that the movie ends, obviously, like it's just more of like he felt to me. I'm wondering if like if that was all for a show. Oh, my
Mm.
back hurts. Oh, this like yeah, and like the way it's like I don't. Do you think that Lancey ever had any doubt that he was going to kick the kid's ass?
No doubt whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think so. Now that I've watched this movie a couple times, like, oh, he had no doubt in his mind he was going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of similar to like when I'm gonna bring up the Hustler again. There's that kind of that opening time where Eddie Felson is facing Minnesota Fats, and obviously Minnesota Fats is it starts to he's from the beginning he starts to dominate him. Then Eddie Felson is like, oh no, it's my game now. I'm gonna and he's winning a lot of games in a row. He's constantly coming at him, cutting at him, and it's like and like he gets a little too cocky for himself, and that's when George C. Scott's character comes in, and it's like, and Eddie is giving that speech like, you know what, fat man, when it's your night, like I know I'm gonna break you, and it's like, and that's where like in that time George C. Scott's like, stay with the kid. He's not gonna make it. He's gonna lose,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that there was a time like where the kid he had a good run going, and I think that Lancey was luring him into a trap. It's like, I see where you're going, and I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna kick your ass. And I think honestly, I think all the quote unquote back pain and all the struggle, I think that was all for show. I think that was all luring us as the audience, saying like, "Oh, the old man's gonna lose it. He's not gonna make it." And I don't think he doubted for 2 seconds that he was gonna kick his ass.
No, because again, Lancey's the kung fu master, right? And so like he knows all the tricks. He knows and he's also he's because poker is not just a game of cards. It's a game of deception, of intuition, of observation. And when you're playing against somebody, you start to notice things. And so like even like that conversation that they have at the break, it's and he asks if the kid has like a girl, and that's like his first move. He implants that in his mind to make to put him off his game. And he goes, yeah, like, well, sort of, and so like and it causes the kid to disrupt his focus.
Yep, yep.
And so like the so Lancey was like he Lancey understands that the game of poker is not just when you're at the table. It's that it's the entire time.
He's he is the smoothest, coolest character
Mm-hmm.
in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it just, I was like, you know what? I was like, when I was watching, it's like, I gotta watch more Edward G. Robinson movies because he's such a great. Well, the guy is a great actor to begin
Mm-hmm.
with, but it's just like, damn, like his character is so smooth and so cool,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like you want to be around him because like I'm gonna learn something by watching this guy.
Yeah.
It's like
Absolutely.
um, the the shenanigans that go on during uh the game because so we get the game with Slade and Lancey beforehand. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
it's like the set the the pre-match before like the actual game against well they're trying to set up the game with him and the kid,
Mm-hmm.
and he definitely pisses off Slade because that's a guy who does not like to lose,
Mm-hmm.
and so and we've talked about what was I forget like when we were talking about this probably after our Birth of a Nation review,
Mm-hmm.
like where we were listening to like that one former slave who talked about how like debt is just another form of slavery, and so he wouldn't put himself in the debt.
Right.
Well, this is where a straight guy, like a good guy, like Shooter, has put himself in a bad position because he owes money to Slade. That's
Okay,
and
yeah, like they had markers, or like Slade had a marker on Shooter.
yeah, so he is in Hawk in slavery. He's in debt to Slade,
Mm-hmm.
and when Shooter wouldn't initially play ball, was like, no, I'm not gonna deal crookedly in the
Mm-hmm.
game. It's like, well, I have this marker on you, so yeah, you are. And like he was even saying, like, I'm putting it down a bet for you too. Like, you're gonna, just you don't have to do it the whole game. Just a couple of hands here or there that just kind of tip the balance. And uh that, like, it's like that's a dangerous thing. It's like, oh, you think that and that's kind of like where we get this more of the story of Melba, like where
Mm-hmm.
she's someone who likes. I think the reason that she stays around Shooter is because, and the reason why I think that Shooter even has those markers to begin with, is
Mm-hmm.
because he's putting himself in debt to give Melba nice things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That tracks.
So yeah, and who amongst us has not done that for a woman that they are just enamored with, right?
Mm.
Many of men have fallen because of a woman. It's a story as old as time.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. I think you might be talking for only for yourself, Rob.
Maybe, but but when the woman looks like Melba, oh, oof, I can't blame Shooter. He is definitely
Yeah,
outside of his league on that one.
yeah, definitely. What's the phrase? He's definitely, yeah, well, yeah, out of his weight class. Punching up.
Definitely punching up.
Out of his league.
Um,
Yeah, ann-Margret.
oof, yeah, baby. The other thing too, so that becomes tension in the game. And then obviously they have a relief dealer who is a former, like, known as Ladyfingers.
Yeah,
She obviously she's been around
yeah,
for a
a
while too.
paramour maybe of Lancey.
Yeah, and the other thing that, like, I don't know if this was just kind of like a red herring to kind of throw us as the audience off,
Hmm.
but she kept like trying to, like, bring up, like, hey, that guy that we used to like play around with, he's dead. And it's like, oh, man, you're he's younger than you and he's dead. And it's like, I was like, what the fuck are you doing, lady? Like, is are you just like bitter that, like, you're no longer with Lancy, and so you're just trying to say, like, yeah, you're an old piece of shit. are, you, are you trying? Are you like, maybe like,
Yeah, that interaction like kind of read as jilted lover.
I was saying, like, either that, or was there something that happened off screen, like where Slade had gotten to her too? Is like, do what,
Ah,
like, where, like, okay, you don't have to deal a crooked game, but you try to throw him off,
mm-hmm,
like where you're like, because he probably knew of, like, yeah, you had a past relationship, so
mm-hmm.
you just start bringing stuff up and you start kind of like just getting into his head, just
Yeah,
keep
just
throwing
like,
stuff
yeah,
out
just like
there.
little pecks here and there.
Yeah, or was that just because, like, well, he also referred to her as, oh man, that I haven't seen that old bitch in like
Yeah, yeah,
15 years.
yeah.
So
Again,
maybe
like, yeah, like maybe,
so
yeah,
maybe both.
they might have been involved.
Oh, they definitely got it on back in
Yeah.
the day.
Hmm.
And because he talked about, like, when that conversation with the kid, him and the kid talking about how it's like, oh, you got a girl, sort of. It's like, yeah, they tend to get in the way of our
Hmm.
profession.
Hmm.
I bet you that the girl that got in his way was Ladyfingers.
Ah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, because like their whole exchange, yeah, again, it was read very much like jilted lover, um,
Because,
more
like,
than
man,
anything.
because I was like, man, you are kind of being a bitch.
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
but then obviously then we get the game, and that's
Hold on.
kind of like the last.
A comment from the Peanut Gallery. Men do stupid shit for a lovely set of tits. Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
Ann-Margret does have a lovely set of tits. I'll just
Oh
give her
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
God, she looked fantastic in this movie.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. Um, the so now we get into the game. And that's what, like, the last 40 minutes of the movie, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Whereas like down to just Lancey and the kid.
yeah, that's really the important part.
Hmm.
Um, that what do you think about that last act of the movie?
Mm. Yeah, it was very tense, for sure, and I think a lot of people were expecting the kid to win that game. Um, kind of just kind of going with like normal convention. Um, but
Oh, sorry. To backtrack, sorry, just to backtrack a little bit, going on the game, because obviously people are uh, there's the game, and then people are also betting on who's going to win the game.
right,
And
yeah,
obviously,
which you know why Slade is there in the first place because he is betting money that the kid's gonna win over
yeah,
Lancey.
because no, people obviously realize the pig and Doc and Cab Calloway's character. No one know. They know those guys are out. They're not going to
Right.
win.
Yeah, they're not
It's,
gonna go the distance.
it's going to be the kid, and it's or Lancey.
Lancey. Mm-hmm.
And the kid was super pissed off that, like, the odds were so against him
Mm-hmm.
that it's like where it's like, why is it 12-5 against me? And so that was an aspect too. But then and so because Slade, I think, put uh he had put things in act, obviously, because he's pissed off at Lancey for
Mm-hmm.
humiliating him. Obviously he was trying to manipulate things for the kid to win.
Mm-hmm.
And even to the point where he's telling the kid to, like, I'm putting a lot on you, let uh don't get in the way of me helping you win. And
Right.
it's like that. And to me, and to the kid, obviously, I'm better than this guy. I'm going to win. I don't need your fucking help.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and I agree with the kid. Like, it's you wanna beat someone that is you want to beat the best at their best, like, without cheating, without any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so obviously the last act of the movie is them facing off against each other, and it's really tense. And one of the hardest things that film directors have is, like, filming a poker scene, because it's really, the sight lines are weird. It's kind of hard to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an example of something that is done. It's done so well
Mm-hmm.
because we're involved in the game. Obviously, we're
Right.
not seeing every hand, but,
Yeah,
like,
there's like the shot and the rear shot, and then you have the crowd involved. Yeah, it's really well done, and like you hear like the conversation going on within the crowds. Like, oh no, he's got him. But yeah, no, he's like you know, oh the odds, da 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 da. It's just like like the constant like ping ponging back and forth from like the table where the game is going on, and then from like the crowd.
I love the
Uh,
dude with the opera glasses.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's yeah, it's funny because like this is like their form of entertainment. It's just like it's like like the guy who has the opera glasses, is he's using them to see like to watch the game like as if is watching some great opera or ballet.
Yeah, I mean, this like, the people that are in that room, that is their life. Poker is their life,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure that, like, all those guys are poker players. And to see, like, but, like, they're amateurs and they're watching professionals play. It's kind of like, people who, they enjoy sports on, like, amateur sports, and it's like they play on their own time, but it's like, oh, but now we're gonna go watch the pros play.
Hmm.
Um, And so it's really yeah, the way that it's filmed is very fun. It's very well done. But yeah, like I was saying, like how we were talking about, like that through all this time, there's like I said, the oh, my back hurts, I'm a creaky old man, blah blah blah. Lady fingers talking about how, like, oh yeah, you're an old piece of shit. All the people that you used to know, they're dead. You know, and but I think that was all put out there to lure us as the audience. It's like, oh no, the kid's got him. Like, he's the dying old fossil that is just going to decay and fall to this younger, much more capable player who. And like I said, I think that uh, because of what we've seen earlier in the movie with Lancey, who he doesn't play. He's not like Shooter or like these other, or like or Doc with his fucking book. Like with playing, he's not a percentage player.
Yeah,
He's not a shoot
and
by
he's
the
not
hip.
Pig that is all emotion.
Yeah, he is someone who, like, he sees everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether they're playing poker or they're like taking the break, he sees everything and sees everything that he is doing is part of the game. And so he has the experience, and he has the knowledge, and he has the percentages in his head too. And he is also able to read people so much better than anyone else in that room. Uh, while the kid is able to read, he the kid is a little bit emotional, but not like overly emotional like Pig. He knows the percentages, but not as well as maybe like a guy like Doc or Lancey.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like he's overly overall skilled, kind of like Lancey, but not as good as Lancey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Lancey knows that, and so he feels that, like, that last hand was all he lured him into a trap. He lured the kid into the trap, and like he Lancey had everyone in the room fooled. It's like, he's got him. The kid's
Mm-hmm.
got him. The kid's got him. Like, oh yeah, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there's no way that he has the card that he needs. Like, it's not gonna happen. It's too far fetched.
Mm-hmm.
And when it like just when and you're thinking, like, we as the audience, like, when I first watched the movie, it was like, yeah, he's got him. Like, it's over. And then that card flipped over, and it's like, boom! It's like you get that musical sting, and it's like, fuck! It's like, oh my god, he
Right. Yeah, because
lost.
it's like, yeah, it's like, what, like, no way. Yeah, because I think Lancey was going for a straight flush,
Yeah,
and then yeah, and the kid was working on a full house.
yeah,
But yeah, it's just like, like no one expected Lancey to get the card that he needed. Um, but when he did, it was just like, it was like boom, and then like a lot of like nowadays, a lot of directors and things like that, or storytellers, they're trying to go for the subversion of expectations or whatever. But
that's
this is, yeah, but this is the movie that did it right. It's just like, everyone was expecting the kid to be the new king, and like he's the next generation and all that, and he's the one that's supposed to come out on top. But boom, no, they pulled the rug out from under everybody, you know, and they gave the win to Lancey.
oh, to be honest, like, I do love that ending. It's like, you're a good kid, but while I'm around, you're always going to be second best.
Yeah.
um, one thing that we'll have to backtrack on real quick, because it does tie into the very end of the movie.
Mm.
Uh, the kid knows that Shooter has been dealing. He's been dealing him cards. Like, he's been kind
Yeah, he's
of
been feeding
fucking
him.
around with.
He's been feeding him cards. Feeding him cards.
Yeah, and obviously the kid is skilled enough. He knows that, like, to be honest, I think Lansing knows that it's happening too.
Right.
Um, and it's like, and the kid confronts Shooter's like, "What the fuck is your?" Oh, yeah, he doesn't say it that way, but it's like, "What's your problem? Why are you doing that? Like, I can beat him." It's like, and he berates him, and it's like, he's like, I'm sorry, kid. Like, he's
Yeah.
Slade has
Right. It's like, I'm
has
answering to bigger people than me.
yeah, and I think in that moment, like while he was pissed off, I think in that moment he heard what Shooter was saying, which is why when they do go back to the game, he's like, "Shooter, you okay? Like you look, you look kind of sick. Are you okay?" And it's like, and that's why he switched. He made it look good, where he didn't like call him out. It's like, I'd rather just have ladyfingers, deal the game. I think he did that because the Shooter is his friend,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows that like, okay, I got to make this look good so that he doesn't get ramrodded by Slade. Um, but before they go back to the game, they're guys obviously they're taking the break. And it's like he calls for the wake up call for like a couple hours later. Hey, give me a call when at like 4 p.m. Why does Melba go to his room to wake him up? What is the point? What is her angle?
I think Melba is again an opportunist. Um, and the fact that she knows that Christian's not with him right now. I think she's using that as an opportunity, and she sees this as an opportunity to maybe jump ship from Shooter, and I know I'm mixing metaphors here, but jump ship from Shooter and hitch her wagon
The
the
kid.
kid. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I was, but because I'm obviously she's attracted to the kid.
Right.
Uh, but I was thinking like, was it because maybe he rejected her earlier?
I mean, I have to imagine that that time after the cockfight, that wasn't the first time she made a move on him.
No.
So again, so we already know, but you know, as before, this was just like them, or getting to sleep with him was more or less fun for her, or maybe like a challenge to see if she can get him to be disloyal to Shooter. This time is he's she thinks that he can beat Lancey, and so if he does, she knows that will open doors for the kid, for him to uh, to what is it, advance in kind of like that world of backroom poker.
Yeah.
Whereas Shooters prospects are either limited or just completely fixed. He's reached a certain level and he'll never surpass that.
Yeah. Because and I think, and we talked about this too, like when the kid we were wondering like why he ended up sleeping with her, and it to us it made sense that like this is his payback at Shooter for cheating at the game,
Mm-hmm.
cheating him out of like potential glory.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that made sense to me. That makes sense because I think that he has the same amount of interest in her as he does for Christian,
Mm.
maybe less.
Maybe, yeah, maybe less. And I think, what is it? I think him hooking up with Melba wasn't so much of him saying that saying admitting that he had feelings for her, but more of a performance thing for the game, because he had all of this pent up frustration that he could get it out with Melba.
Yeah, and yeah, that could be too. And that there was after that because like literally right after he hooked up with Melba
Mm-hmm.
and um someone knocked on the. He was getting ready to start the
Yeah, go back to the
go
game.
back to playing. Someone knocked on the door. It's like, oh yeah, I ordered coffee, and who shows up? Christian. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh fuck, that's got to be like the and she obviously is devastated because she thought that like by him going to visit her before the game, meeting her
Mm-hmm.
family and all that stuff, like that was like a big moment for her
Mm-hmm.
and like their relationship.
Right.
And then to see Melba in the room with him,
Mm-hmm.
sorry.
Yeah.
Um and it's like it killed her in a sense. But
Mm-hmm.
when the movie ends after Lancey beats him, um he is just absolutely stunned that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he stumbles out of the hotel and doesn't know what to do. And it's like, well, time to pack up and go home. Why? But then we see that Christian waited for him.
Mm-hmm.
Why did she wait?
It's a very good question. I mean, because she obviously knew what was up. Like, even though they, try to put on, Melba tried to put on that story. It's like, oh, I just came to wake you up, just as Shooter instructed me to do so. And I was just, and then, I was
She
just
didn't believe.
waiting. I was
She
just
didn't,
waiting in the room for you to get, to get ready. Christian was obviously savvy enough to realize, that was horseshit.
bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's a good point. Like she or did she? Was she waiting for him, or was she just or was she just out there, like kind of like stunned? Waiting. Maybe just waiting for a bus to take her out of, take her away from there.
Well, because there's that embrace at the end. I think that
True.
she was waiting for him.
Wait, did she go to him or did he go to her?
I think it was because I think he was surprised that she was still there.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, who initiated like the hug? Did he like, you know,
Oh, clearly
after?
he did. He
Okay,
did.
okay. Um,
Yeah, it's yeah, he's the one that initiated the hug, and I almost wonder, is he gonna be Shooter from that? Like, is he gonna become like what Shooter was, where it's like, oh, I'm just I'm gonna play the percentages, I'm gonna I don't win a lot, but I don't lose anything really that much,
mhm.
and or maybe does he go away from poker altogether and like just like, well, I reached the top of the mountain. I didn't get to the top of the mountain, but I got there. Or I didn't like conquer the mountain, but I was almost there.
Yeah, he's like
And just but then he lives a more of a
obscure life.
nor- obscure life with Christian,
Mm,
and I think it does leave the story open a little bit, like what happens to the kid after this.
right.
You know, so yeah, I mean
Well, if
that's
she was waiting for him, then if she was waiting for him, then maybe she could have been waiting for his downfall.
because
You know.
think about it, because that game probably took 3 hours or more
Hmm. Oh,
after
that last game. That last game.
that last game probably took about 3 hours.
Hmm.
She was still waiting outside the hotel room. She wasn't just
Yeah,
waiting
or
for a
like
bus.
only at the hotel. Yeah, you're right.
She would have been
Um,
long gone by that point.
True. Yeah. So
So
yeah,
that's why I
that
think
makes
she was
sense.
waiting for him.
Yeah. Or maybe she believes that that he is a good man. Even though he's not in like the most honest or honorable trade. Being a poker player. And maybe she was waiting because and for the most part he was an honorable man, and the only time that he lost is when he was dishonorable. And so
Yeah,
once that happened, like I maybe she thought that they could have a life together because now he no longer has the weight of being the kid or the next upcoming thing or being the guy that beat the man. And so like he might be able to leave that life behind him.
My thinking, like based off of like what I know about the characters that were given, I have a feeling it's like, listen, I got to like where I was trying to go. I didn't beat the man, but I was there. I was like right at the edge,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done all I can do. So, and I think that they do end up together, and like they do live, maybe an obscure lifestyle, but I think that they are together and they do live, they have a happy life together.
Mm-hmm.
Because that embrace to me was like, whereas like I, from him, it's an I screwed up. I am so sorry that I hurt you. And from her, like for her, like kind of giving the hug back, it's like, I forgive you. That's how I saw
Okay. Yeah, it could be just as simple as that.
because she's seen all of his faults, all of his issues, and I think that she loves him anyways.
Mm. Right.
So yeah, I think that's yeah, I ended up watching this movie like 4 times,
Mm.
like within like the last like month when coming up to the this review, and I'm like, it took me a few times to kind of like work through all the characters and everything. It's like, but yeah, this is a great freaking movie, man. I like this movie a lot.
Me too. Anything else to add?
No, I got nothing else.
Okay. All right then. Let's give our rating and we'll wrap it up.
All right, why don't you go first?
All right. Guys, it's really hard because I'm I'm riding the edge here. I'm like, because I'm wondering, like, this is easily a 4, easily. But
Yeah,
is it? But could it be a 5?
man, it's so close. I think it
Yeah,
could be like I'm like I'm very close to just giving it a 5.
yeah. Although you know what? I might just round down and give it a 4. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah, I kind of bounced around too because I was like, well, at first I was like, I wasn't sure what to think about the ending. I was like, I'm gonna give it a 3. No, no, I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Oh, you know what? No, this is a 4. Oh shit! Like, and after our conversation, I'm like, fuck, maybe this is a 5.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this movie,
Right. Yeah, but
and
you say yeah. But for me, after a little bit more scrutiny, yeah, maybe not a 5, but really close. And maybe
I,
after if I watched it a few more times, I could maybe get to a 5. But I think for now, I'm gonna put a placeholder and do a 4.
I'm gonna go slightly higher than you. I'm going 4.5. First of all, I think it's shot beautifully. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like I said, I'm a huge sucker. I love Steve McQueen. He, yeah, he maybe in real life he was kind of a jerk, but goddamn, he is so fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
And but I love all the characters. I like
Mm-hmm.
Shooter. I like Lancy. I like is much of a big douche as he is. Slade is a cool character. Uh, Melba is cool. And I can sympathize with Christian. Like, she just wants to love her man.
Mm-hmm.
And even like some like the little side character, Ladyfingers is fun.
Yeah. No. That's one of the things that I think make for truly special movies is that if the side characters are as interesting as the main characters.
Yeah, Pig was fun.
Mm-hmm.
The Doc.
Yeah, Doc SoCal.
Yeah, Doc SoCal. Thank you. I couldn't think of his name. It was like
Yeah.
Doc SoCal. Yeah, he's cool too. It's like always constant. It's like, and Cab Calloway's character is like, you're always writing that damn book. What are you writing in there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like memoirs? It's like this. Oh, so it's just like in those characters, even though they only have maybe like 10 minutes of screen time, and they're so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
So the opera glasses guy, like we don't get his name, but like
Well, I think
he's
hold on. I think he was Hoban. No?
mm, I think you might be right. Yeah,
Yeah, Hoban.
I just call him opera glasses guy. But yeah, it's like I said, 4.5. So for me, it's a 4.5. I think the movie's shot beautifully. The characters are fun. Um, and I like the fact that the kid doesn't it's not the up and comer. It's the wily veteran that
Mm-hmm.
gets one over on he's been luring the kid into this trap all
Mm-hmm.
along.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like where I have a feeling that like uh that happened like what 10 or 20 years prior when Shooter was the up and comer. That's exactly what happened to him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So yeah, great,
Okay.
great fucking movie. I really like the Cincinnati Kid, and everyone should check this out. This is a great. If you like poker movies, this is top of the mountain.
Mm. All right, folks. There you have it. That's our review for the Cincinnati Kid. I give it a 4. Rob gives it a 4.5. Definitely a movie worth watching. Yeah. Again, just shot beautifully. You're totally invested in the characters, and even the side characters are super fun. You will not regret uh, you will not regret the time. Uh, you won't regret the time that you spent to watch this movie.
Yeah, it's not too long. It's like like 2 hours.
Yeah, I think maybe just shy of that.
Yeah, just shy of that.
Just shy of 2 hours. Um, but yeah, definitely recommend it. All right, folks, and that'll bring us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
I always have a great time. What are we doing next week? What
Next
are
week,
we?
um, uh, since we did a, do you want to keep going along with cards, or do you want to break it up and do a
We,
billiards?
we can do rounders. I'd be okay with that.
Okay, yeah, all right then. We'll do rounders
I have
next
never
week.
seen Rounders, so this will be my first viewing of Rounders.
Okay, it's been a while for me, so yeah, it's been so long that it'll practically be the same thing as watching it for the first time.
Yeah, some sometimes that happens.
Yeah, yeah, not yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to watch it again. So yeah, so look forward to that next week. Don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have, or in the meantime, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circulage's main podcast, the latest episode with our guest from the Cut Above horror review podcast. Hydraberg is out now. It's a great
Today,
one. It's a today. We were trying to have it by Halloween, but it didn't quite work out. Um, but I got it up as soon as possible. Oh, we get it in time for Dias de la Muerte.
that's true, and they did plug us on their show too. So
Yes. So
Hydraberg
do
talked
yeah.
about.
So do give that a watch. It's an interview slash review
Movie.
of movie review of a movie Tetsuo the Iron Man.
God damn
I,
that movie's good.
better than what I was expecting. I'll just say that. But
Yeah,
yeah, just go definitely go check it out right now. It's available. Get get give us a thumbs up. Share the episode with with your friends. And I know we don't really do much. Uh, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? I know we don't do a lot of view begging, on our channel, but this is the one. Well, this is one of the times. So do check it out. Talk about the,
Yeah.
yeah. Again, check out the library of content that we have. Circle's main podcast, episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.